We continue with Kitzur Yomi. We're in the middle of learning the halachas of Tefilin, Perek Yod, Simin Yod in the Kitzur. We pick it up from Sif Dalid. Says the Kitzur, Minechan is a Tefilin Mu'umad. We put on Tefillin standing up. Of course, this is Minhag Ashkenazim, while Sfardim do differently. Don't shake the Tefillin out of a bag. It's a bizayin, which of course, when you hear it, it's like, well, obviously. But then you sometimes watch people in shul that they take their tefillin, they just like turn it over and they roll out. What are you doing? You take them with your hands. You first want to put on your shalyad because is a kesher. Before you tighten it, mavarich laniach tefillin. Kametz hot tefillin. V'lamid shel tefillin tegusha. Mahadik is a kesher, and you tighten it. V'ois teshav krichais al yadai, and then you make the 7 krichas. I'll just mention. He said you don't tilt them out. It's a bizayin. Rather, you take them out with your hands. This is, of course, where it comes from. You take it out with your hands, and many people at that point give it a kiss. You're picking up a mitzvah. You want to kiss it. You want to show the love that we have for the mitzvah. After you make the 7 wrappings, before you tie in it, mevarich al mitzvah tefillin, and you tie in it, and after you tie in it, of course, due to the incredible machlekes hapaiskim, whether there is a bracha, whether there is not a bracha, what we do is we go and we say Baruch Shem Kavod Machusay the Ulam Be'ed. Vatam Shach Lem Baruch Shem Kavod Machusay Ulam Be'ed says the kids of the Sheish Ksas Safek, but Bracha Zu is a bit of a Safek, and therefore we mitigate the Safek by making the bracha, but by saying Baruch Shem afterwards. When they say Safek Bracha Zayis, because there's a bit of a Safek, L'chein Yish Gam Gein Safek Im Hashem Ya'ane Amen. If someone who hears the bracha says amen to the second bracha, says Pri Megadim. Al Kainir Ali. So says the Bekitzer, what do? And the reason being, just to point out, no 45 quotes from the Pri Megadim, the Shulchan Aruch in Reish Tes Vav, that you don't say amen to a bracha that was a bracha levatala. So for a chayshi shemaypi, you don't say amen. Al Kainir Ali Paskins the Kitzer. You can make this bracha, you should make, this bracha quietly. And no 46 says that the Relacha would seem to indicate you could make the bracha loud and someone could say amen. 3 wrappings around your middle finger. That's why I'm saying achas perak, one around the middle joint, and 2 around the lower joint. Afilu mir aloi, says the Kitzur Sifei, even if it happens, shaitim and a kid shel reish chila by mistake, you take out the tefillin shel reish. Sarich lahavir ala mitzvah, you have to pass it over. Meaning, yesterday we learned that if you by mistake are holding your tefillin before you put on your talis, even though the mitzvah of talis comes first, why? Tadir v'sheino tadir kaidem. So maybe one would think, if I by accident took out my tefillin shel reish, maybe the same thing should apply. Says the Kitzur, no. You put down the tefillin shel reish mitoich yadai, and you put it down. You covered. Then you put on tefillin shel yad first. Why? The reason you have to put on the shel yad for the reish, hu min hateira shenemar shartem liyos al yodech v'yotzavos ben nechel afikach ein mashich la'avar mitzvah. Meaning, yes, you were maver al mitzvahs. Yes, it was incorrect that you're now holding your tefillin shel reish, but because the pasuk says tefillin shel yad comes first, you have no choice but to put it down and put on your tefillin shel yad. Continues the Kitzur Sevav le'yidav rachaytziv until I'm sorry, you don't want anything being chatzitza between the tefillin and your hand and your head. L'shna shel yad v'l'shna shel reish. Note 48 very importantly points out, primarily this is the bottom and not the ritzuos, but the ritzuos as well. The chatzchila, one should ensure they are al bisari. Small hairs are not a chatzitza. It's normal. Those who grow their hair long in front of their heads, it's a gaiva. Why is it an iser? We don't have gimel. Chukus agayim. Yeshoid iser, says the Kitzur. If the hair is very long, havyon chatzitza. Havyon chatzitza. And the bottom, though, 49, they also point out your tefillin won't be tight on your head. So something one has to be careful about. You want to make sure the tefillin are sitting on your head. Want to make sure that the knot is always touching the bayis. Of course, but even mitach kisan, which means when you wear your tefillin avada, but says the Kitzur, even when you take it off, you put it in the bag, you want to make sure that the knot of the tefillin shel yad is touching the actual tefillin. You want to the yud towards your heart, and the mavarta through which the surah goes, is upward, and of course, this is just the way that we put on our tefillin. Says the Kitzur. So now, we just learned that every tefillin has a top and a bottom. We just learned that every tefillin has the normal way of putting it on, that this is the normal way that the knot is going to be kineged alev. So the question then comes up is, as the Kitzur continues, are you ever allowed to flip that around? Now, when would that be shaykh? Says the Kitzur, Shaslachai kon iter, leave a lefty, kon iter. Shumaniach v'yamin, who puts tefillin on his right hand, v'ata ein lo yitonel shvulin mimi shumaniach v'small. A lefty, he needs to borrow tefillin, but he can't find someone that has lefty tefillin. So he takes righty tefillin, v'chenev chod abasev, v'iniach l'shanas l'kesher, and you can't take off the whole knot and rebuild it. V'imkein, iv'niach tefillin v'ayvin zeh. If you put on tefillin like we said above, it's going to be all messed up. It's going to be upside down. It's going to be on the outside. You put it up, you turn it around, and you put it on. So one thing you have to remember is that the yod has to always be inside a leaf. So let's say in a similar vein, a righty bar is lefty tefillin. What are you going to do? You can't put it on, so you got to flip it over. You flip it over, then the yod will always be kineged the leaf. Siv chas also have siv sicha inel the talk ben shal shal roish. Fafilu rirmos be'enov likros be'etzvav to motion with your eyes or your fingers is usher. Now that's a big one because definitely there are people you'll see them putting the tefillin and someone tries to talk to them and they'll make a motion 1 second. That is called a hefsek. Note 53 points out from Ramesha that avada kissing your tefillin is not. The simple svara being, it's not a separate item, it's part of the mitzvah itself. They take off right away. It will consider one mitzvah. You hear Kaddish Kedusha between your Shal Yad and Shal Rosh. Lo yafsik. What do? Yishtik, you're quiet. If you have it and you listen to the Mashiach, I call to everyone saying, and then that's as if you said the Kaddish Kedusha, and then you finish putting on your tefillin. However, as you're putting on your tefillin, you hear the guy next to you making a bracha on his tefillin, very classic. Amen, who amanas dvarim in between your Shal Yad and Shal Rosh. You can answer amen to the guy next to you. Why? Because it's part of the mitzvah you're doing. Shumamin mitzvah tefillin. You're saying this mitzvah that I'm doing, this mitzvah is amen. It's all one entity. Continues the Kitzur b'tefillin should be in a tam. However, the Kaddish Kedusha yachal lahavsik for tefillin shall be in a tam between Shal Yad and Shal Rosh. Continues the Kitzur. Sif Tes, Imtav V'Hifsik, if someone made a mistake between the Shal Yad and Shal Rosh and was mafsik, he made a separation, Yamashvi Shal Yad, he should move it a little bit, Baruch Sheinis, La'aniach Tefillin, make another Aniach Tefillin. V'Chazik is the Kashach L'Yanir Shal Rosh, V'Varech La. V'Mifsik L'Tzarech HaTefillin, then he's Shal Varech Sheinis Shal Yad, you don't have to make a new bracha. Yechavi Menachas Tefillin. What is the kavana behind the mitzvah? Shetzivanu HaKadosh Baruch Hu Laniach Tefillin. Very simple. God commanded us in what we were doing. Sheish Arba Parshis. It says in it the oneness of Hashem Shema Yisrael. V'Yitzias Yisrael and Yitzias Yisrael. V'Alazroi Keneged Alev. You want on your arm opposite your heart. V'Alarosh Keneged HaMoyach. Kedei shenizkar Talmud, you always remember nisim nifloi shasi imanu shemoirim al yechudai. It shows the oneness of God. V'shaloi hakayach v'mshaloi. He has all power. V'al yonim zachtoinim v'yishabilos and neshama shimoyach. And we're mishabed. We submit, we bind our soul with a Kadosh Baruch Hu, v'gam alev, shu ikra atayvos umachshavos. Ubazeh yizkor as habariv yamin anos, if you're not going to have that much hana, v'yikayim, the psukim in Shema l'surah, achol l'chenecha, l'chein ksiv tefillin, bein einecha. We continue with Siv Yad Aleph, tefillin shal yad v'shal rosh, tei mitzvahim, ve'ein ma'akvei zeh b'zeh, shemeid lo yelach, you only have one of them, oy, shemach zeh zaynes, ein yachal ein yachal achas, v'niach achas, whatever the reason is, you have a bandage over the whole head, rachman al-Litzlan, you have a cast over the whole arm, you can't put on your tefillin, you can't put on the one of them, but you still put on the other. Miniach shal yad, then we'll have our niach tefillin shal levad, v'miniach shal roish, then v'rachalav laniach tefillin, and v'gam mitzvah tefillin, v'ayim v'rachshik v'maqsad yilam v'eh. We continue with Sif Yud Beis, and we conclude with Sif Yud Beis. Eater Gomer, a full lefty, a Nasa Eater, even if he was born a righty and he trained himself to be a lefty. Mach Mashergelas, that's what he came. He called Makam, Yinech B'Yamin Shal Adam, he puts on the other hand, She's Smailai, which is his left hand. V'im also called Malacha B'Yamin. If he does everything with his right hand, Rakshay Kaisi, the small he writes with the left, Hayad Shay Kaisi B'Yichashuvo Yamin. The one that you write with that is the defining factor. And the tefillin goes on the other hand. You everything with both hands. You put it on like every righty on the left of every person. Therefore, if it was not born an Iter, he was not born a lefty. He trained himself but everything else is done with his right hand. He's still called a righty, and it will go on the left of all people. Let's stop over here. I'll pick it up from Sif Yud Gimel the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.